And a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round 7 of the single-seater championship for 2023. Apologies for the slightly more subdued, shall I say, commentary in the first couple of races. I am sorry to report that you will be joined by my voice for this second race, which at least I'm pleased about. Of course, this is the reverse grid race. Here, another Matt Daly masterclass in race 1 with Willinglis close behind, but we're about to get underway here, ladies and gentlemen. Barry Clayton, Steve Knight on the front row, Andrew Brammer and Paul Brady on the second. Then we have Alan Matthews, Willinglis on the third. Matt Daly, Paul Millman and Alex Smith rounding out the field there. But it is, in fact, 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away here in Mexico now. A good launch there for Steve Knight, but has Barry Clayton just won out there? Yes, he has the heads now down towards that first corner. Not a brilliant race for Barry Clayton, that previous one here, as we now go 4 wide. It was a fantastic start for Matt Daly. That's exactly the type of launch that he needed, though, as Paul Brady actually now takes the lead of this race, heading through the first corner complex. So he now leads a much cleaner turn than what we saw in the Formula 1 just a few days ago, of course. Now ring down towards the end of Sector 1 here. This circuit, a very interesting circuit, of course. If you were to kind of compare it to another circuit, yeah, well, I think you struggle to really, but it's quite similar in some regards to Silverstone, maybe a bit of Suzuka as well in there. But of course, the big difference being the altitude, which drastically changes the amount of downforce that these cars produce. You're running, well, the old adage goes that, you know, in Formula 1 at least, you're running Monza spec aero, you're running Monaco spec aero and getting Monza levels of downforce. So it is a big difference here for Mexico. I believe it's actually more like Singapore spec aero. That's what a lot of cars tend to run these days. But it's been a good start here for Paul Brady. 2.5 seconds ahead, make that 3 seconds into the lead now. And I rather feel that the battling is going on elsewhere. And here it is on board with Barry Clayton now heading down that start finish straight with Matt Daly just behind, only 0.2 of a second behind, with the advantage of the slipstream. No driver using the push-to-pass system just yet. They feel like there's no real advantage to it at this point in the lap. Instead, Matt Daly's going to use that massive toe heading down towards the first corner. As we head now on to the back straight, of course, if we were running DRS, which we are, DRS is all done by one detection zone right before the start of the start-finish straight here, so it's one big advantage if you can get that in other cars. But Matt Daly takes the advantage instead by going up the inside, heading down towards the turn 6 area of the track. And there's contact between Willinglis and Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews looked somewhat out of position in the previous race as well. Luckily, both drivers able to get underway relatively quickly as a result of that. Willinglis, it looks like maybe his rear tyre is somewhat struggling after that, and there's a bit of a pack forming up here now as we make our way down towards Sector 3 in just a moment's time. In all of that mess, Alex Smith has won out. He's now up into P5. Paul Millman in P6. We saw him having to dive into the pits ever so slightly in race 1, and now he's side by side with Willinglis. Alan Matthews, the big loser in all of that, he dropped down to P8 with Willinglis. Once battling him for P4, now battling him for P7. As we jump back into second position here, it's Matt Daly who's extended his lead on Barry Clayton now, and is, I presume, setting his sights on Paul Brady up at the front of this race. Paul Brady does have the pace, though, to compete, so let's see what he can do. Side by side, these go 3 wide into the first corner. It's Alan Matthews and Paul Millman who are going to be fighting out heading into the first corner. Paul Millman gets a little bit scared there. Feels like Alan Matthews might have squeezed him just a little bit too much and backed out of it. And in fact loses the position as well to Willinglis. He makes contact with Willinglis, dropping behind him. That's Willinglis up into 7th now. Alan Matthews up into 6th position. In all of this, Andrew Brammer is running in 5th. He's lost position to Alex Smith. Alex Smith, as I said a lap ago, the big winner in that slight kerfuffle, I think we'll call it, in Sector 2. He's up into 4th position now, and a clear break away from Andrew Brammer. 126.4 matching him on that last lap, of course, with everything going on in the previous lap. All of those below Andrew Brammer were in 1 minute 30. So I should mention that Paul Brady is controlling this race well. We'd expect a bit of a kind of a charge, a bit of a push on now from Matt Daly to try and get back up towards that P1 However, what we're seeing here is Paul Brady's comfortably in the 123s, whereas Matt Daly is stuck in the mid-124s. Paul Brady's here with the push-to-pass system, as we can see, setting purple sector 2s. Whereas Matt Daly is constantly improving, he's just not quite improving enough. And as soon as I say that, Matt Daly blows the lap record for this race completely out of the water with a 123.6. He's tagging along Barry Clayton with him. He's dragging him along. Barry Clayton says, "Thank you very much, I'll have that slipstream." Yeah, we're now seeing Matt Daly closing that gap up to Paul Brady. Let's see if Paul Brady can respond. You could have argued that maybe Matt Daly was holding off to try and manage the times a little bit until later on into the race. However, that is seemingly not at all what he is doing. I should mention that you may see, if you follow along on the timing system, which is aroc2.emperorservice.com/live-timing. So that is aroc2.emperorservice.com/live-timing. Alex Smith, you may see, has just set a very fast lap, a 123.3, but that fell foul of track limits there, so that lap has been deleted, hence, while of course he is very quick, especially on that PS5 controller, I don't think he will have found 3/10 on Matt Daly at this stage in the race at least, without the odd track limit incursion here or there. At the moment with Barry Clayton 6 seconds away from the lead of this race and just about 2 seconds ahead of Alex Smith, the aforementioned Alex Smith. We're waiting to see a more representative time from Alex Smith, and it's a high 23, so he's hunting down Barry Clayton, is Alex Smith. We're going to have a battle on our hands here in just a couple of laps' time. Speaking of hunting down, Will Inglis back, trying to put that pressure on Alan Matthews if he can, but Alan Matthews is instead hunting down Andrew Brammer here. Andrew Brammer somewhat get the impression that he might be a bit of a sitting duck, although hanging it around the outside into turn 1 really worked for him. Carrying that extra speed, he was able to absolutely fly on. There's Willie Gliss doing the same by just falling foul of track limits. That also works. The steward may decide that he gained a bit of an advantage by that, of course. He won't have the lap deleted, won't be asked to take the position back. He might just get his lap deleted at most. He's now along the outside of Andrew Brammer and up into 5th position. That is two positions in 2 corners for Will Gliss there. A strong showing with Alan Matthews still down in P7 now. So Will Gliss hoping to try and make some gains back toward the likes of Alex Smith if he can after a slightly messy start to this race. Of course, we know he has the pace. He was running very nice indeed in race 1. Should mention that Matt Daly has responded to my calls of only setting 124s and is now in the low 123s. I suspect as the fueler gets lighter here, we're going to be in the 22s, the high 22s before we know it. A few drivers doing that actually. Alex Smith, another driver in the 23s here, so we're starting to get into quite an interesting phase in the race, I would say. Of course, in the series, all running the same compounded tyre, but drivers pushing the car a little bit more earlier on. Maybe not thinking so much about the late stage in the race, and we're seeing some pretty major gaps in performance. Also, of course, one of the key advantages of running this reverse grid format is that we do get these mixed up packs, which provide some brilliant action. Speaking of the action, let's have a look at how the championship is looking after the first race, after all of that race 1 action, as we see Alan Matthews get ahead of Andrew Brammer now. Andrew Brammer losing a little bit of pace in this race now, battling with Paul Millman. Paul Millman trying to put the pressure on it and take 7th position away from him. We're going to have a look at how things are looking in the Swarbreak.com format Alfa Championship. And as perhaps you would expect, it's Matt Daly leading with 229 points to his name. Paul Brady just behind with 180. Then we drop a fairly decent drop back to Will Inglis in P3 with 120. Barry Clayton P4, 84. Andrew Brammer here, we're on board with him at the moment in P7. Has there been a bit of an incident here? No, there hasn't, I'm pleased to report. Of course, dropping back a little bit in this race, but still doing well in the championship. 77 points to his name, so as it stands, Alan Matthews in P6 with 72 points will be closing that gap. Let's see what Andrew Brammer can do in order to make sure that doesn't happen. Alex Smith, meanwhile, 71 points to his name. This will be a decent race for him in terms of his championship standings. He's very much out of the count now for the top spot, but can still have a good fight in the midfield. And then we go to Paul Millman. apologies. No, we go to Steve Knight. Steve Knight having a good championship this year with 66 points to his name. He's not having the best weekend here in Mexico, but should be taking a couple of points for his troubles. Then we have Jack Hodson, P9, 63 points. Paul Millman, P10, 58 points. Unfortunately, guys, we can't make it this evening. 34 points, and Andy Craig at 21. So a decent mix throughout the field, and that midfield battle is growing. P4 down to P9, only separated by around about 20 points, so still all to play for in that midfield. Of course, Paul Brady might have something on Matt Daly here in the second half of the championship. We are, of course, only just past the halfway stage, I'm pleased to report. Let's see what else is in store for us. I'll tell you what's in store for Paul Brady. I feel it could be a bit of a threat from Matt Daly here as we head down the start-finish straight. For the past few laps, we haven't seen Paul Brady eclipse the 23-second region, whereas Matt Daly has been in there quite comfortably for quite some time now. Another driver just like that is, of course, Alex Smith. Alex Smith putting that pressure on Barry Clayton, who's just a couple of tenths behind now. Let's see how their battle is shaping up as we head through turn one. It is Barry Clayton on the defensive, brake disc glowing red hot as we get back on to what is effectively the back straight. There's quite a few flat out areas on this track, but this is a proper straight. As Andrew Brammer and Paul Millman have had a bit of contact here. Andrew now dropping behind Paul Millman as a result. We go back on board though with Paul Brady going a little bit wide. Too deep into the corner goes Barry Clayton. Alex Smith has the inside absolutely nailed here. But what we're seeing in quite a few corners here in these cars at Mexico is hanging around the outside seems to be working very well. Carrying that extra speed, the track just comes back towards you and it seems to really reward you. And this is perhaps saving Barry Clayton as we head down towards Sector 3 now. Under the bridge once more, and Alex Smith has to back off ever so slightly. Isn't quite able to get the move done just yet. Alex Smith now having a look around the outside as we head into that stadium section in just a moment. Of course, Mexico has its this Mexico City circuit has its critics, but you have to admit it's a very cool feature of the track to run through that stadium. It must be so cool as a fan, as a spectator, to look down and see the cars travelling underneath you as we head down that start-finish straight. Once again, Alex Smith in the tow here, has that little pocket of air that he can fly through as Barry Clayton up in front pushes all of the air out of the way. But he isn't able to catch up just yet. This could be a difference in... Oh dear, that's a big off for Barry Clayton. Not sure what happened there. It was a lock-up, a hardware failure, or just flat out losing the back end. Either way, that is a disastrous off for Barry Clayton, because in all this, Will Inglis and Alan Matthews, you get this feeling that Will Inglis might have been towing Alan Matthews along ever so slightly, but Will Inglis has been closing up on Alex Smith quietly in the background, so that small issue has meant that Barry Clayton has gone from trying to defend P3 to all the way down in P6, potentially under threat from Paul Millman if he's able to get back up to speed. It looks like he has been able to, but that is a disastrous moment in the race for Barry Clayton now, and that's exactly what the likes of Andrew Brammer want to see in this race, as unfortunate for Barry as it is. And this allows Alex Smith a little bit of a breather. Now, I'm not going to say too much of a breather, of course, because there is Will Inglis not too far behind at all, just a few tenths in it really. And I should mention Alex Smith a little bit slower on that previous lap. That has also allowed Will Inglis to close right back up. Of course, in the midst of battle, you will slow yourself down, and that has certainly happened for Alex Smith here as we head down the start finish straight. Once again, 1.5 seconds separating these two drivers. Will Inglis, though, about a second faster than Alex Smith. Remember what I mentioned, that we might be seeing drivers in different phases of this race? I think we're now seeing Will Inglis up to his full potential and pushing on to close that gap up to Alex Smith. It's a battle for the podium once again. This time round, though, it's not Alex Smith on the offensive, it's going to be Alex Smith on the defensive here, as we see Andrew Brammer able to get ahead of Paul Millman. I believe there was a big accident between Andrew and Paul Millman. Once again, these two not getting along on track at this point in time. They are able to carry on, luckily. As while all of this is happening, I should mention Matt Daly is closing up on Paul Brady. Not quite at the rate that we've seen elsewhere in the race, but still by a decent margin, by at least 4 tenths, 5 tenths per lap. So a battle on our hands here as well, as Alex Smith responding to the charge of Will Inglis. Now, Will Inglis losing a fairly decent amount of time actually through the first sector, a 30.9 in comparison to a 38.5, sorry, a 30.8. Probably don't know where 38.5 came from, and that is a big off for Alex Smith there. Oh dear, that is So unfortunate, actually making contact with Steve Knight and Willing Bliss as they go past, but that is not what that is not what Alex Smith needed at this stage of the race. He's now back with his mate from before, Barry Clayton. This time though, it's down in P5 and P6. That is a great shame for their races. This now means Willing Bliss on the podium, and Alan Matthews fighting Willing Bliss for a spot on that podium. All of a sudden, the podium battle has been chopping and changing, ladies and gentlemen, as we head down the start-finish straight. Once again, Alex Smith and Barry Clayton, I feel, are just about to begin their battle as well. It's all to play for with 10 minutes to go in this race, ladies and gentlemen. As Paul Brady's also under pressure here from Matt Daly, so nothing is secure so far with 10 minutes to go in this race. 2 tenths now separating these front runners in this race. We head now through Sector 2. That gap builds up ever so slightly to around about half a second here as we've got to feel for Alex Smith. I can't imagine that car's too happy with him at the moment. A lot of downforce missing going to those accidents, and of course the tyres pretty much mullered after a big spin like that. You saw the amount of smoke that was being cascading into the sky there, and that is not what he needs with 10 minutes to go. That car will not be enjoyable. I think one trait I think we have in the AROC racing leagues is the cars are never really at their peak, are they, by the end of the weekend in particular. They've been well used, shall we say. But it is still Andrew Rammer and apologies, it's Paul Brady and Matt Daly battling as we head down towards the first corner. I think we must get in touch with the FIA really, and you know, in F1 you're not really allowed to have your 3-letter shortened nickname be the same as someone else's driver for a certain number of years as well afterwards. I think we might need the same rule here in the AROC racing leagues. We'll get the FIA on the case, I'm sure. They'll be very interested indeed. Not as they do much else usually race weekend. Who said that? But Andrew Rammer, I've done it again. I've just made a point about doing that and did a whole riff on it, and then I've gone and done it again. But it's Paul Brady and Matt Daly as we head down through Sector 2 once again. 1/10 now separating these two drivers as Paul Brady really is leaning on. We're seeing the odd mistake creeping in here or there as he heads through the bends, just trying to carry a bit too much speed. And it's ever so slightly slowing down Matt Daly as well, because the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, if I've not messed that up at all, is not the easiest track in the world to overtake on through the corners. You know, you've got plenty of DRS, so but outside of that, it can be a little bit tricky. Of course, we've seen many an overtake attempts through the stadium section. Just asked Lance Stroll about how well that goes. But as we head down the start-finish straight, here's one of those overtaking opportunities. And it's Matt Daly now just a few tenths behind. Paul Brady responds with the push-to-pass system. Matt Daly uses it at the start of the straight and is able to keep Matt Daly at bay for another lap more. 7 minutes to go now, and all to play for still in this race. And we see Matt Daly poising himself there, looking around the outside. As he does this, we're starting to notice the pace beginning to drop off these cars. Are the tyres starting to give in? Are the drivers starting to think about maybe looking after the fuel loads? And we're into the 31s now for every driver through the first sector. The pace is starting to drop off. High 23s now for the likes of Willing Bliss, Alex Smith. Into the 24s, of course, for Matt Daly. He's in the midst of battle. And as we head down towards the end of the lap, once again, Matt Daly, is he going to try another move here? There's darting across the track from both drivers as we now enter the stadium section where your tyres are screaming for mercy at this stage. This is, of course, a clockwise circuit, but plenty of high-speed left-handers through the middle sector and through the stadium section, of course. The track's effectively shaped like a triangle, so for that one sector, the tyres are pretty well bullied as we head down the start-finish straight. And of course, stadium section is nasty as well. It's down the start-finish straight. There they are, side by side. Matt Daly gets the tow. Nothing really that Paul Brady can do. No push-to-pass system to deploy to keep him at bay. And as we head into the first corner, nice clean overtake from Matt Daly, who takes the race lead here in race 2. What can Paul Brady do, though, in response to that? Let's see now as we head down that long straight. Once again, the long back straight towards the start of the second sector. And it's looking rather good for Matt Daly. It must be half a second though. He can't breathe easy just yet, but he has certainly got control of things. He's had a pace advantage for quite a while in this race. Has it eroded, though, with a bit of battling? Of course, the tyres may well have dropped off. Just want to have a quick look. Of course, I say, everyone's pace is starting to drop off. Alan Matthews wants to prove me wrong once again, and it's a 30.5, which is a purple first sector in this race. He is predicted, if things go his way still, and of course I mentioned the tyre temps, that might not be the case as he heads through Stadium, a 22.9, our first driver into the 22s potentially. This is what we would like to see as he heads now through the Stadium section. Has some traffic to contend with. Not traffic though, it is a battle to negotiate as we head round the final corner. Long sweeping right-hander where it's gone so wrong in the past for the likes of Valtteri Bottas. Goes a little bit wrong here once again into the 23s. The tyres just really unhappy by the end of the lap, I fear. Plenty of temperature in them with a slightly low downforce track, of course, and not the nicest track surface in the world either. As we head into the first corner, Alan Matthews is in the 23s in that last lap, but perhaps more importantly for his race is closing up on Will Inglis. 1.5 seconds now between Paul Brady and Matt Daly. Apologies for the small interval there, but we continue on. And the battle between Will Inglis and Alan Matthews rages on as we head around that right-hander. Just look there as he heads through the final corner. It looks to be that Will Inglis very nearly finding himself in that barrier. I think the tyres now really starting to drop off. But he is able to keep Alan Matthews at bay. The question is, though, for how long? This battle was threatened for so long in this race. It went a little bit wrong earlier on, but now it continues on and for a good position. Once again, this is a battle for third in this race now. Will Inglis versus Alan Matthews. Who comes out on top? I can tell you on that last lap, well, it was Alan Matthews who closed up that gap. In fact, no, correct me, I'm completely wrong. They matched times, actually, both 23.7 seconds. I can say that Alan Matthews overall has a slight pace advantage here, a 23.2 in comparison to Will Inglis' 23.3, so very close indeed, but Will Inglis seems to be able to keep up this defence. Can he keep up this defence for just about 2 more laps? That's all he needs to do in order to secure a podium here in this race, which will of course be beneficial to his standings in the championship. Matt Daly, meanwhile, is starting to put in some real pace here. Just look at that predicted time. He goes personal best sector 1, purple sector 2, purple sector 3 for a 22.2. Matt Daly, my hat goes off to you, sir. That is a blistering lap time low 22s then in this race. I was slightly worried. We haven't seen the 22s at any point in this race so far. And then Matt Daly just goes, here you are. Here is, well, what is no other way of putting it, really, nearly a second quicker than anyone else. While this is happening, of course, a battle between Will Inglis and Alan Matthew rages on. This time, Alan Matthews down the start, finish straight, gets a nose out in front, gets the car out in front. Will Inglis be able to respond now? Looks like it. Alan Matthews goes a little bit too deep into the corner, a little bit too late on the brakes, but is able to recover it. I think Mexico seems to be quite a forgiving circuit in these circumstances where you might go a little bit too deep into the corner, as we said before, going around the outside, things like that. Track seems to forgive you a little bit and allows the battle to continue on, which is what we like to see, as Alan Matthews, I think that is known as the IndyCar line there, sir, continues on in P3 though. About a second now between Alan Matthews and Will Inglis. Will Inglis be able to respond with so little time left in this race? This is... And now, as we go on board with Matt Daly, the final lap of this race, so we're heading around the last couple of corners, and Matt Daly, congratulations, sir, finishing this race with a bang with a blistering lap time. He's going to improve it once again. It's 22.1, takes the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race, and takes the race victory as well. Congratulations, Matt Daly. Double victory here this weekend at Mexico. Paul Brady, got to commend you for a fantastic effort in keeping Matt Daly at bay for as long as you did. Comes home with P2 in the end. Alan Matthews in that battle for the podium, a fantastic battle. I'm sure they thoroughly enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed watching it. Alan Matthews wins out and rounds out the podium with P3. Will Inglis coming home P4 then. Alex Smith recovering in the end with earlier issues with a decent P5. Good haul of points there. Likewise, Barry Clayton's a slightly messy race at the start for a few people, but still some good points to take away. Strong finish for Paul Millman there. Good points on the board, and he's immediately in the pits. Andrew Brammer, I think, could have had more out of this race. We certainly know his pace is certainly more than a P8, so it's a shame the race just didn't go his way. And then Steve Knight rounds out the running here with some extra points on the board here. So some strong racing throughout there. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Wish I could have been in the comms box for race 1, but need must, unfortunately. So I'm glad I got to catch a little bit of the action here for race 2, though. Matt Daly with some victory wiggles. That's what we like to see as we head towards the stadium section. Are we going to get some stadium section donuts? We did it in race 1, and I hope we get it in race 2 as well. There we are. Fantastic effort there, Matt Daly. Who else is going to join in with him this time? Will Inglis joined in with him last time. I think Paul Brady is going to have a couple here. As Alan Matthews rushes down the sector 2 here to wait for me, guys. I want to join in as well. As this is a health and safety nightmare. We have cars flying past in the background. I'm sure the stewards are well, they must be turning a blind eye to this, because this is just downright dangerous. But here comes Will Inglis as well. Well-deserved donuts to celebrate as well. Not quite the finish he would have wanted, but some great pace in this race as well. At various stages we had multiple different cars on one track that ended up being the fastest cars at that time, which was very nice to see. Oh, we got some synchronised donuts there between Alan Matthews and Matt Daly. That is, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10 for synchronisation there. That's not a tactic we often see. We kind of see cars near each other donuting, but that's beautiful. Oh dear, that's a wall. All your grace and elegance has just entirely disappeared there, Matt Daly. Apologies. What's happening? It's a good thing Pirelli is a partner of AROC, because the amount of tyres that we munch through at the end. Oh dear, that's banger racing's now occurring. Yeah, the amount of tyres that we demolish. I mean, they're pretty done after the racing anyway, but we make them even worse at the end of the stream anyway. Oh, Alex Smith's had a crash with me. That's not very kind. It's just rude. It's plain rude, Alex Smith. That has been noted, and now I've got to put my 75 into the body shop. So that rounds out this evening's action. Hope you enjoyed watching as much as I've enjoyed commentating, and I will see you later on. Thank you very much.